Hi, this is Sydney from the Disney Desk podcast, and you're watching Takeover TV. Go Birds.
What is up, friends? Takeover peeps, random person coming across this video. However you got here, I am so happy to have you. It's time for another weekly wrap up, my friends. Today I've got a question for you, starting things off. If you played Pokemon back in the day, what was your starter Pokemon? I'm talking about Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Red, those big three. Not Yellow, where you automatically had Pikachu. Pikachu's an easy answer. I'm talking, which one did you have between Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur? Your boy would usually pick Squirtle, sometimes Bulbasaur. Charmander was always really tempting because I wanted Charizard eventually, but Squirtle was my main one. I just really liked all the evolutions of Squirtle along the way a lot. Got a little story for you. Had an interesting thing happen. So as you know, I mostly exist on Twitter. I do my sales over there. That's where the DMN takeover formed. That's where it happened. But I do have an Instagram personal page. I dabble in cards a little bit over there. I don't sell there. I don't really buy there, but I have connections there. So I'm in this little group chat with a bunch of collectors, and there's this one guy in there named David. Dave's Cards 32 on Instagram, actually. And Dave consigns with me, has for years now. And we've been going back and forth. I used to live in Minnesota. I knew that he lived in Minnesota. So we had that personal collection. That was really cool. Well, on Twitter the other day, actually a couple of weeks ago now, I made kind of a joke post. I posted, I saw people talking about their favorite game used memorabilia and things like that. And I don't have full jerseys of players. I would love to have one sometime. I would love to get like a Ben Wallace game used jersey or a Deion Sanders Ravens one, any Ravens memorabilia, honestly. But I digress. David saw that post where I posted 3 of my high school uniforms. I had my basketball warm-up jersey. I had my Lutheran High School was the name of the school, the football jersey, and my basketball jersey. He recognized the name Lancers on it, and he messaged me on Instagram, and he was like, hey, what year did you graduate? I graduated in 2006. He said he graduated in 2005. Well, it turns out we were football teammates in high school. And before you go crazy, like, how in the world did you not know each other? I mean, it's still kind of weird, right? We weren't actually classmates. What happened was my school was very small. His was pretty small too, but I think a little bit bigger. I mean, I came from a graduating class of 28 kids, okay? So we co-opted for a football team. We combined with another one called West Lutheran in Minnesota, and he came from West Lutheran. So he was a year ahead of me. It's funny though, looking back, because it's like we would have lined up right next to each other. I was a tight end. He was a right tackle. He was number 70. He showed me some photos that he had, and it was just so funny to me. Like, how did we not know this? How did we not catch this sooner? And it seemed weird at first, but then he like rattled off teammate names. He rattled off the coach name, little mini stories or whatever. He talked about our quarterback. We had this quarterback named Moses Alapate, who was an 8th grader, an 8th grade starting varsity. He was my favorite quarterback to have because he was so tall. Our other quarterback was pretty short, and sometimes the passes were a little dodgy. I was mostly a receiving tight end, although I did block sometimes. It's just this frame doesn't really block a lot of rushing linemen, if you can't imagine. Anyways, he could get me the ball way easier. I want to say he was like 6'3", 6'4" as an 8th grader, and like over 200, fast, good passer. Obviously, he was starting varsity. Anyways, fun side story to that, Moses went on to play at the University of Minnesota, and he was actually one of the names that won in court against EA Sports for using likeness in NCAA football games. He won. He was a part of that team. That's crazy to me. Like, you're telling me my varsity quarterback, who was an 8th grader, got used as the likeness in the video game. Anyways, that's besides the point. David and I were teammates. That's crazy. I can't believe it. It was really cool. He even like mentioned things like a play he remembered, a play I really liked running. And I have a certain amount of memorabilia left over from that my parents kept and passed on to me, like box scores in basketball and little write-ups and things like that. I had my football actually straight across from me. I'm looking at it right now. My football playbook from then, and I was able to open right up to that play and show it to him, and he remembered the play as it was. It was crazy. Anyways, cool story, cool thing. Collecting is really totally a big, tiny world. That's wild. A little bit of NFL news, friends. We had some movement happen. Elijah Moore was traded to the Cleveland Browns along with their third-round pick for Cleveland's second-round pick, which is a signal that they're trying to truly get Aaron Rodgers over there. Aaron Rodgers wanted certain receiving pieces, things like that. They're now stacking draft picks for him. The funny thing is, though, A-Raji, that's what I like to call him, or Buds. A-Raji has not actually completed any sort of movement. So in all reality, this could still fall through. I mean, he is still a Green Bay Packer, technically. It's just kind of funny. We're still waiting on word from him. I'll wait for, he'll probably text me. I'm not sure. He might be texting me right now and I can't read it because I'm making this video. Anyways, we're waiting on A-Raji. The Jets now have back-to-back picks in the second round, which is huge. 42nd and 43rd overall. I'm very interested to see what they do with that. Devin Singletary moves on from Buffalo. He signs, I believe it was a one-year contract with the Houston Texans, who are looking to draft their future quarterback now. It'll be interesting to see if it's Stroud, Bryce Young, or if they do something crazy. Although the Panthers do have the number one overall pick, so it is going to depend on what they do first. Adam Thielen left the Vikings. He signed with the Carolina Panthers. And can we just talk about Lamar Jackson for a second? I think I'm over it. I think I'm ready to move on. I'm tired of this poor relationship where I'm waiting to hear back from Lamar to tell me if we're still in a relationship. I say we're held hostage at this point in Baltimore, right? I say that like I'm from Baltimore. I just love the Baltimore Ravens. They don't know what to do. They haven't made any free agent signings. They're trying to leave room for keeping him in the future. The draft is coming. Like, we need to figure this out. Do we need to draft a quarterback or not? Like, Lamar, just freaking tell us. I think the relationship's over. I think it's time to move on. That's just me. I'm over it. What do you guys think? There have been some fantastic March Madness games. And at the time of recording this, a few games happened last night. I did not think to pay attention to that this morning. So if there's any other crazy updates, forgive me. And by the time this drops, there'll be even more games played. And that's fine. We're going to talk about the first and second round right now. There have been some major upsets and it's been awesome. I love when underdogs win the games. That is my favorite part of March Madness. Given I don't have a team in it right now, so I'm not like super pulling for anyone. I did pick Houston to win it overall in my bracket. But that's besides the point. I just want underdog wins at this point. I want the board to be wiped clear of anyone that people thought were the best. I want to see like freaking Princeton win it, which is possible because they're still in it. They won their first two games. We also saw Furman, a 13 overall seed, beat Virginia, who is number 4, on a very questionable Virginia play. Virginia just needed to basically hold the ball in an inbound, and given they were trapped immediately, so it wasn't great. They weren't going to be able to cross half court in time, it appeared, but there was very little time left on the clock. They probably could have just waited to get fouled and let more time go off the clock, and instead the guy who was basically at the inbound line still decided to whip it up in the air across half court. It got picked off by the other team. They were able to knock down a 3 to win the game. Yikes. That's the kind of play where you do that and then you walk on the opposite side of your coach to the locker room. Like I said, number 15 overall Princeton has upset 2 teams. Number 16 FDU took down number 1 Purdue. That's the second time ever in March Madness history that a number 16 team has won. That's crazy. We now only have 2 number 1 seeds left. They are Alabama and Houston. Bit of video game news. I have been diving back into the PlayStation 4, and I tend to go back and forth between 2 different consoles, usually GameCube and PlayStation 4. I dabble in PS3 and Switch a little bit because there's games I love playing on there, but GameCube and PS4 are my 2 big ones. I've been going back into Insomniac's Marvel Spider-Man game, which is just a beautifully made game. It's, first of all, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero overall. What's yours? Drop it in the comments. Spider-Man is my favorite, personally. I just love swinging around New York City as him. And this game did it so well. They made New York City look so good. I just adventure around. I feel like Spider-Man. I get lost and immersed in the graphics and the city they put together. I love doing things like when it starts raining in the game on there, I love climbing the Empire State Building and just sitting at the top and just panning around slowly and looking and seeing like the airplanes and then diving off of it and swinging back through the city again. Just love stuff like that. When a game makes me do that, It's really good in my world. Anyways, we've been waiting on a second game. They released Miles Morales. I've not played it yet. I'm actually waiting for that on the PS5 when I get a chance to buy one, which is also what I will be waiting for with this future news. It has not been officially announced by Insomniac and the producers, but the voice actor for Venom said that they'll be releasing the second Spider-Man game sometime in September, which I'm super excited for. But once again, I will be waiting on until I can afford to put a PS5 into my collection because I want to see the updated graphics with that. Until then, I will continue playing the first Spider-Man on PS4. And honestly, that can take me a while because I just restarted and I've never played the downloadable content yet. And I will do that to add to the playing time and story of it all. Stuff that slaps. This is one of my favorite segments now of Weekly Wrap Up. Today we're talking about the 1995 Hardy Boys TV show. Did any of you watch this or even know that it exists? I know you know who the Hardy Boys are. I'm not talking the wrestlers. I'm talking the fictional detective brothers. The show aired from September 23 to December 16th in 1995 and had just 13 episodes. I loved them all. I can still hear the theme song in my head. It's kind of like anyways, did not nail that. That's what it kind of sounds like. My brother and I loved watching these episodes. They happened very early on Saturday mornings. I think like 6 o'clock in the morning or something like that. There was a Nancy Drew series that actually kind of made by the same production company that would air before. So that might have been the 6 a.m. slot. Hardy Boys might have been the 6:30 slot. It was kind of cool because they would actually bring a few of those episodes together in the crossovers between the two. But my favorite was the Hardy Boys. I actually have the complete first season, which is the only season on DVD, but you can also watch them on YouTube at this point. Because they aired so early, we missed a lot of the episodes, but my mom would sometimes be up early, and she is a wonderful human being who would record them off TV onto VHS cassettes for us to watch later. We only had about 5 episodes recorded. We would watch those religiously, and this, of course, inspired me to become a bit of a detective myself. I started writing down notes and clues in a small notebook about my neighbors, what they were doing, things like graffiti at the park. I remember one time my neighbor stepped out of his garage and I happened to see from my fort that he had a cutout sign of a certain local breakfast diner in Minnesota. And I thought to myself, I bet you he stole that. I bet you he stole that. Never mind the fact that he might have owned the restaurant or just been some sort of memorabilia collector of restaurants or anything like that. I will say no crimes were solved. Either that was there not being crimes going on or the fact that me being like a 10-year-old detective wasn't going anywhere. Anyways, 1995 Hardy Boys TV show, certified slapper. It's music time. Another favorite part of my day. I listen to music every single day. It's like oxygen to me. I love music. I love listening. I love making it. You already know that. Music suggestion time. I'm going to start with a band called Fleshwater, who released an album not that long ago called We're Not Here to Be Loved. It's grungy, it's fuzzy, it's shoegazy, it's got new metal roots to it. Think the Deftones do shoegaze, but that shoegaze band that they're doing has been listening to a lot of grunge. Fleshwater hasn't even been around that long, but they are coming on strongly. I've seen that they've had sold out shows places. I've heard them on a few different podcasts. I've seen great reviews about them. The band is made up of singer and songwriter and guitarist Marissa Scherer, apologies if I got that last name wrong, whose vocals beautifully haunt the songs that they've written when she comes in singing. The other 3 members of the band come from a band called Vane: Anthony DiDio, Jeremy Martin, and Matt Wood. I highly suggest checking out that album by Fleshwater. My next music suggestion is an artist named Defo, who released an EP called Feelin' Like Cardi. Defo, or if we're going by his given name, Trevor Bartlett, is a rapper who started releasing music under the name Defo not that long ago. I want to say just over a year. I might have that timeline wrong. Forgive me, Trevor, if I do. But before you've even heard a Defo song, you are familiar with Defo's work, or Trevor's work, because Trevor, aka Defo, made the cartoon animated Takeover logo that you see me post. Trevor's a very talented musician, and we go way back. All the way back to when I was 19 years old, and he was a teenager, and his band opened for my band at some church. We played many shows over the years. He's gone on to make really good music. He has another band called Author, who kind of sounds like a little bit like Copeland, Radiohead, stuff like that. Defo is way different, and Defo is out on his debut tour as we speak. Defo is kind of like, it's got this lo-fi, dreamy, dark vibe to the rap that I really love. I eat it up. It keeps me listening. It really gets me excited about the songs because I can listen to it multiple times. I can listen to it for all those electronics in there, all those vibes, and then I listen to it for his rapping style, and then I listen to it for the lyricism. I highly suggest that you check out his 4-song EP, Feeling Like Cardi. I want to close out with a quick little thing. If you've been watching anything having to do with sports cards and social media lately, you've seen stuff about certain breakers on a certain platform scamming people lately. You've seen them showing, kind of taking cards off camera, switching them out, doing that, and then kind of giving empty apologies. I just want to remind you that not everyone is like that. And the thing is, ultimately, anyone can come in, anyone can start selling, anyone can start breaking, and it could potentially be scammy and things like that. But that doesn't mean that everyone is. And this just means all the more that it is very important to, when you are a seller or breaker, to do everything right, everything transparently, and just, be communicative. Even when you make mistakes, just communicate that to people. Build that trust. Show them that you are a trustworthy person. If you are a consumer of those products, those sellers, or those breakers, it is all the more important to share vouches about the good ones, the ones that haven't done anything or, anything sketchy. And it's also important to support those breakers, sellers, and such financially, because they can only exist based on your input and what you give and stuff like that. And yes, it is transactional, but it is also just community building, because you're propping up the good ones. You're making sure the good ones stay there. All those things. It's just, and it's unfortunate. It's not just in sports cards. It can happen anywhere. We see big companies do it to people, okay? Just don't get burnt out by the ones you hear, because I think that those need to keep being reported. I think that those need to keep being shared and whatnot. And some people think that that's people being negative. I think it's really just making sure things don't get swept under the rug. As long as you can keep it cleaned up, as long as you can keep exposing the ones that do wrong by people, we can right the ship and make it better, okay? It's by not sharing those things, we're sweeping it under the rug, and then it's going to be a bigger problem later, okay? And this is very important too, especially for newbies coming in. They already don't always feel like they're welcomed into the hobby. Sometimes we can be gatekeepers. Sometimes we don't like new, fresh ideas and things like that. The last thing we need is for a new person to come in and get scammed by someone immediately and then immediately dip, because that is not sustainable for a community that honestly is very large, but also very small and niche, such as ours. So I want to leave you that message today. Thank you so much for hanging out. Peace and love. I'll see you guys soon.